So here we are, either after our warm-up, or if you are doing the side split series, then after your side splits. And we're going to be working on our straddle splits for this series. Now, the straddle split is also called, I believe in yoga, it's called pancake. So it doesn't necessarily look like the splits that we recognize, but it's still a lot of that hip flexibility. And this one feeds more into the hamstrings and into the lower back as well than our center split does. So now that we've held our butterfly stretch for a little while, we're going to go ahead and move into the first stretch in this series. And for this, we're going to need our strap or belt or scarf, whatever it is that you're using. And we're going to go ahead and lie out with the strap around 1 foot, and using the strap to help be able to keep that foot straight and supported, we're just going to lift that foot up. Now I want you to lift it up as high as you can with the strap helping keep your foot flexed and keeping that knee straight. If you can get it all the way up here, that's great, but with that knee belt, that's not the goal we're going for. So we're just going to pull this foot up towards us, keeping the lower back pushed into the mat, keeping our breath running, trying to relax our shoulders back, not feeling a whole lot of strain here. We should really just feel that activation running through the back of the leg. Once again, I want you to engage that knee, make sure that leg is straight. And when we've held this for a minute to a minute and a half, we're just going to go ahead and open out to the side. Now I want you to open out as far as you can, keeping this back hip grounded. I don't want you to roll over. That's not really getting that stretch along the inside of the leg. So we're trying to keep our shoulders and our hips pushed back into the mat and just letting our leg drop open to the side and lifting it up as far as we can, keeping that leg straight. You may also feel this as you relax into it. You may start to feel this stretch in your other hip, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that the more you relax into this stretch, the more other muscles are going, oh yeah, I feel that too. This is good for everybody. And every time you exhale, I want you to think about pulling that leg a little bit higher, sinking it a little bit lower, while keeping that opposite side of the body pressed into the mat. And when we get to our minute and 30 seconds, we're just going to use the strap to lift this leg back up and go ahead and let it drop over. Now this is probably going to be the deepest stretch or the sharpest feeling stretch for most of you. We're trying to keep this hip glued into the ground and just dropping that leg as far over to the side as it can comfortably go. This one is a stretch that's going to run along the outside of that leg. So this is activating those muscles that you only normally feel when you've hurt them. When you stepped off a curve wrong or fallen off of a high heel while dancing. It's these muscles that you're stretching here. And while it's good for us to stretch them, we definitely don't want to overstretch them. We don't want to try and push them too far. Just a nice gentle stretch. You should feel it, but it shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't feel like something's going to break or snap. It should just feel like an intense release of stress and of tension from that area. And we're going to go ahead and bend this knee back towards us. And I want you to bring the other leg up. We're just going to switch which foot we're wrapped around with either our strap or our belt or our scarf. Let the other leg come out straight. We're going to straighten that strapped leg and then lift it towards us the same way we did with the other side. Now I tend to climb the strap and let my arm weight intensify this. If that's too much for you, if you don't like the way that feels, your arms can stay all the way down on the mat and you can just pull from here. It depends on the intensity of the stretch that you want to have. Letting the strap flex that foot, making sure that knee is nice and straight, breathing, and as we breathe, just seeing if there's any more space we can move into. Not move into as in a bounce, but just as you relax, as those muscles lose tension, see if there's a little bit more flexibility that you found, a little bit more elasticity. And we're going to go ahead and open this stretch out to the side, keeping that hip grounded, not letting it float up and away, pushing that relaxed leg into the mat so it helps counter the weight of our leg dropping to the side, and pulling that leg up and dropping it down. And we're going to go ahead and bend that knee and bring that leg up and over center, straighten it again, and dropping it to the far side. Letting it drop across while also lifting it up towards our face, trying to keep that opposite hip pushed into the mat. So we're really stretching the leg, not ending up doing an oblique or a back stretch. And go ahead and return that foot to center, bend that knee, bring the other foot up, and we're going to go ahead and unhook the strap and place it to the side. And now we're going to come into our more straddle-based series. Now with our straddle, this is the position that we're in, feet going out to either side, back nice and straight. And the goal with the straddle stretch and our straddle split is to not only get our legs out as far as we can on either side, but to also be able to bring our chest towards the floor. Now the temptation with this stretch, the hardest part with this stretch, is that we want to go, oh yeah, look how close I am to the ground, well, get my elbows down, wow. The focus is that we want our spine to stay nice and straight the entire time. So when we walk our hands forwards, we're only going as far as we can fully rotate our hips, as opposed to how far we can bend our spine, okay? So, I like to use the block for this. You do not necessarily need one. But we're going to come into that comfortable straddle. I want you to be in a position where you can feel this stretch, but it's not painful. We're stretching two elements, so we want to make sure we're stretching both of them equally, not that we are stretching our legs out so far that we can't move anywhere with our torso. We're just going to start with our feet relaxed. I do want you to try and activate your thighs though, pushing your knees into the ground, so there's not a whole lot of space here. We want to sort of make sure that we're pressing our knees into the floor. Most of us are going to have a gap there, and that's fine. You just don't want to have so much room that it's very obvious that your legs aren't straight. Now with our block, I like to just put my hands on it and use the block as a sliding point. And I'm going to slide as far forward, hinging at the waist as I can. And when I find that my back is arching, I'm going to stop. I only want to come as far as my straight spine allows me to. And then from here, we're going to flex our feet. And on our next exhale, point our toes and see if any more space is opened through your hips as you release your hamstrings. And once again, we're going to flex the feet, really engaging the knees, pushing the legs down into the ground, and sliding forwards if there's more open space here. Now, if you don't have the block, you're just walking your hands forwards. We want them on the fingertips, not on the flats of the hands. So you're giving yourself the opportunity to keep your shoulders back and down. And go ahead and point those toes. See if any more space has opened. And once we've gone through this exercise, flexing and pointing the toes for about 30 seconds, we're going to move into releasing some of the pressure throughout the spine and in the lats. And then we're going to come back to this stretch to finish out. So I'm going to start by walking my way back up my straddle stretch. And we're going to bring both hands over to one side. I want you to try and rotate the shoulders over, once again keeping that back nice and straight, not just flopping everything over. So keeping our back nice and straight, just pulling with the arms, trying to bring the chest to the leg with a straight back. Keep this hip activated. What I don't want you to do is roll yourself over, so there's a whole lot of space under your leg. I want you to keep that sit bone and glute glued down to the mat as we rotate the spine. So you should feel this stretch through the lumbar spine and down along the side, as opposed to feeling it through the glute if you're rotating everything over. And we can play with flexing that foot. I'm even flexing the other foot. It's still over there. It's still working. And pointing both toes, seeing if there's more space to pull the torso down towards the leg. And then we're going to go ahead and, if you can, we're just going to drop this elbow inside the leg. And we're going to open our outside arm up and over. Now the temptation with this is to once again cave that chest in, turn your shoulders down to the ground. What I want you to really focus on instead is we've planted this elbow inside the knee. We're just going to lift our arm up and over, turning towards the ceiling instead of caving towards the floor. Trying to keep this hip pushed into the ground. Just a nice open stretch through the rib cage and through the lats and the obliques. If you can, rest into this enough to grab your foot, great. If not, that's totally fine. We just want to focus on that turn up towards the ceiling and allowing our side to sink closer to our leg. And go ahead and open this arm back up, pushing with your lower arm to bring you back to center. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So sliding the arm over, bringing both arms to one leg, trying to keep the spine straight and lifted, keeping this hip pushed down, letting that stretch run along the inside of the thigh and through the lower spine as we pull that chest towards the leg, keeping our shoulders nice and pulled back. And once we've hit our minute and a half in this stretch, we're going to bring that elbow over, So we can open this other arm up towards the ceiling, keeping this hip pushed into the ground and trying to look up, twisting high as opposed to caving low. You don't necessarily want to feel tension through your neck here, so if you notice that you're straining to look up, just go ahead and release that down. We don't need the neck workout. Keeping that hand pushed over and lifting that chest. Play with our flexing and our pointing. Opening up those hamstrings and the space behind the knees. And when we've held this for a minute, we're going to pull with that hand, coming up and over. And we're going to check back in with that center split, seeing how releasing those muscles and stretching out those muscles has opened up some space for us to get even deeper into that stretch. Grinding the sit bones and the knees into the mat and sliding forwards as far as you can, keeping your shoulders pulled back and down and your spine as straight as possible. So we really just want to hinge from the waist in order to try to bring our chest towards the floor. And continue to play with those flexed feet. And our pointed toes. On every exhale, seeing if more space has opened to bring our chest down. Checking in with the spine periodically, making sure that we're keeping it nice and in line instead of letting our shoulders migrate forwards. And when we've held this for a minute to a minute and 30 seconds, we're just going to roll the spine back up straight and go ahead and bounce these legs in. You may find when you didn't necessarily feel the stretch in your hips and in your knees, coming out of it, you'll find those places are a little bit tender. That's totally fine and very natural. And the last stretch that we're going to do is going to be our frog stretch. Now with our frog stretch, it's for the inner thighs and for our hip flexors. It's good no matter what kind of splits you're working on to check in with this stretch, since it is a really nice kind of all over hip stretch. With our frog stretch, we're gonna come to all fours, and I want you to walk your knees out, bringing your feet with them. Now, some people find this is easier on a wooden floor or a tile floor, somewhere their knees can slide. Some people find this is very uncomfortable as far as the pressure on their knees. In that case, I advise taking a couple of rolled up towels or folded up towels and putting those under your knees. You have the cushioning, but you can slide the towels along the floor to get the most out of the stretch. So we're gonna walk our knees out as far as we can, making sure we're keeping our feet in line. I don't wanna see my feet between my legs. I want my feet to be in line with my knees, which are in line with my hips. And then we're just gonna go ahead and let our body weight and gravity open up this stretch, pulling our hips closer to the ground and letting those muscles release. We're not gonna rock here. I'm not gonna sort of jiggle up and down or back and forth. We're just gonna, nice and controlled, let these muscles release their tension for our minute to a minute and 30 seconds. If you find that this feels too intense, just go ahead and lower more of your body towards the floor so that more of your weight is gonna be into your shoulders as opposed to into your legs. If you find the stretch doesn't feel deep enough, just go ahead and lift up, putting more of your body weight into your hips, so there's more pushing your hips down towards the floor. When we're ready to come out of this is one of those stretches, I think it gets better the longer you're in it, but if you don't feel that way, hold this for just our minute, and we're gonna go ahead and get out of this by coming to one side, straightening one leg. What we don't wanna do is try and like jump our legs together. We've been in this nice deep stretch, our body's released that tension, so we're in a vulnerable place. So I'm just gonna straighten one knee and come back, getting out of it without putting any extra pressure or effort into those hip flexors. And whether you are doing just this straddle split stretch, or whether you're doing the full splits challenge with our left and right splits, go ahead and do these twice a day, either along with the video or once you've kind of got the moves down, watching your favorite TV show, you're listening to your favorite podcast or music, whatever works for you. And in 30 days, we'll check in and see how we've all done. Thanks. Bye.